You are not watching a demonstration of the latest title for PlayStation 2, but rather the latest tool for training in the Santa Ana Police Department. Welcome to Talk About Town. I'm Finally Bensley. On this month's episode, we focus on some of the tools and techniques employed by the Santa Ana Police Department in the training of their officers. You are watching images from a vehicle pursuit simulator. Composed of powerful computers, the simulator generates a three-dimensional world in which officers interact with dangerous situations that can and do occur in the course of their duties. This all looks like pretty complicated equipment. How does it assist the officers?
Well, what it does for the officers is it allows us to create a potentially dangerous environment, such as pursuit driving, and yet in an environment where there's no risk to the community and no risk to the officers.
What can happen during a simulation?
During the simulation, the officers are confronted with the same type of conflicts and the same type of decision-making situations that occur on the street. Vehicles come out from driveways. Vehicles don't hear the siren for whatever reason, whether that's a stereo blasting or whether it's just a nice quiet car that they don't hear the siren. And vehicles don't pull to the right like they're supposed to. So then the officers are confronted with that situation, use their judgment and their decision-making skills to decide what they're going to do. Are they going to pass on the left, pass on the right, or show a little patience and wait for the person to move?
Now, are the scenarios random or programmed?
What we have in the system is there's actually 60 that are pre-scripted scenarios. So every time they drive it, the same conflicts will occur for each officer as they drive it. Outside of that, there's an unlimited amount of unscripted scenarios that we can build ourselves and create any type of situation that we feel is applicable to our officers here in the city of Santa Ana.
Now, do the officers know what they're going to get, or they just sort of throw it at them?
No, they don't know what they're going to get. Like I said, there's over 60 of them, so there's quite a few different ones. And we usually start at a lower level and work our way up, and so they don't go directly into the pursuit driving.
What is CalPost, and how is it incorporated into the simulator?
Well, CalPost is an agency that kind of oversees law enforcement throughout the state of California. They do inspections and certifications of different departments, whether they be down here in Southern California, Santa Ana, or all the way up into Red Bluff, or any law enforcement agency in the state of California. They have the certification process, so they oversee the training. So what they do is they make sure the training is consistent both in Southern California and Northern California. They come out and they check all of our lesson plans. Any type of training that we're going to be administering to our officers needs to be approved through California Post. And Post stands for the Peace Officers Standards and Training.
Now, how much training does each officer get?
The current program through Post is set up for 4 hours of training for each officer. Now, the training itself is somewhat of a slow process. We have 2 simulators, so we can accommodate 4 police officers in a matter of 4 hours. So if you look at that as we have almost 400 sworn officers, it's going to take a long time to get everybody through it. And some other larger agencies will even take longer. So it is a slow, methodical process. But right now we're scheduled for 4 hours per officer.
How long do the scenarios last?
Well, each scenario is different, but generally speaking, they're 2 to 3 minutes long. And they won't go too much past that, because the design in the training is with the adult learning concepts, and we're trying to get the officers to learn by doing. So we want to put them through the conflicts. But we don't want the conflicts to be so spread apart that the officers forget what they did at the last intersection or forget that particular conflict and the reaction that they used in that scenario. So we have the ability to go through a 2-minute scenario, hit the replay button, walk the officer back through it. I can hit freeze and stop the scene at any time, so that then that's when the learning really begins, and we're able to interject our training and show them the options that they had at this intersection. They could have went to the left, they could have went to the right, all of those type of things, so that they can see it. We explain it to them, and then we can put them back into the same scenario, and they can redrive it in a better with a better end result if they ended up in a crash or something of that nature.
Now, you must have tried the simulator yourself. What do you think of it?
Actually, I like it. When you first sit down in it, it seems it takes some adaptation involved to understand the size of the car, the braking, and the steering. But as soon as I turned on the red lights and siren and I started chasing an individual suspect, I became involved in the simulator, and I found myself driving it as if it was a car. It really does feel closer to a car than you might imagine. The steering, the braking, we have anti-lock brake in it. You'll get a sense of pulsation through the pedal if you're braking real hard. We have brake fade, so that if you're overdriving your brakes, it will go away and you won't have your brakes. You'll have to pull over and stop. There's also a crash feature, so that if you run over a curb or a stop sign, you'll feel it through the steering wheel. You'll get some kind of feedback to you that says, hey, something has happened when you ran off the road or hit the curb. And then if you come into a major crash, of course, then the scenario stops and ends, and you've basically not successfully passed the scenario.
Now, if it comes to a big crash, you get a big loud boom and everything?
Yes, you get a big boom, you get a feedback through the steering wheel, and you know you've crashed, and then your screen goes away, and everybody else in the room knows you've crashed.
Which probably could be embarrassing, right?
Right, which is what we're trying to avoid. So.
Is there a particular scenario most often used by the Santa Ana Police Department?
We don't have one in particular, other than we like the intersections. Within our city, we have obviously a lot of intersections, and intersections seem to be one of our most dangerous points for the officers when they're running with red lights and siren or in pursuits. We also have a lot of centerline dividers, which are really changing the way officers, their ability to get from point A to point B in our city under red lights and siren, because so many cars get blocked in within those center dividers. So primarily intersections, because they seem to be the most dangerous.
Now, how long have you had the system here?
We've had the system actually set up here in this office for about a month, and we've been doing training, in-house training with everybody here in the training unit, and we've been bringing some other officers in. The systems themselves have been in use by other agencies for over several years, actually. Most academy students receive this type of training when they go to the academy. Sometimes they used to have to travel out of county to get that, because nobody had the systems here. But now there's systems in Orange County, and now we can bring our not only our academy officers, but our veteran officers back into here, into the simulation, and also afford them the training.
Do you ever get officers who said, hey, this was so much fun, can I do it again?
Yeah, they start off that way, actually, and then what happens is we turn that fun into an actual training environment and a learning environment, and the best reaction that I get when the officers leave is that, hey, that really taught me something. We are seeing a transference, and that's really the idea behind the simulation, is that when you come in here, you make your decisions, you're tested on your judgment, and we want that to transfer out to the street. And we've already had feedback that the officers are saying they've had that transference. They get into the car and they go, hey, this feels like the simulator.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So have you ever had any officers say, hey, this simulator training has actually helped my driving and helped me make decisions out there?
I think what it does primarily is it raises their awareness. Because we try to teach critical scanning skills where you're actually looking into the intersections, turning your head before you approach an intersection, all the defensive driving skills. So it really raises their awareness in that area. So when they do go back out on the street, they're thinking about those things again. And the safety of the community and the safety of themselves when they're driving in the cars.
31, I'm on a traffic stop on B in Wall Street. Plate 38717. 31, I'll be in pursuit.
Officer, what is your main concern right now?
My main focus is on going through these intersections and making sure I'm not running into any cross traffic. At the same time, the officer's got to be thinking about this is an armed and dangerous suspect, so he's thinking about his tactical approach if the vehicle does stop for him. Now we see the vehicle's come to a stop. We're also going to be looking for the officers, like I said, the tactical approach. Now that the vehicle's stopped, where's the officer going to stop his car so that he's in a place of cover for such a dangerous stop?
Yes, and you're worried about cover in case he has a gun.
Right. Apparently this car was reported armed and dangerous, and that's why we were in pursuit.
What is this computer terminal used for?
This particular monitor gives the instructor the ability to overview the confined area of where the officer starts a scenario. So as you can see, we can see the buses, we can see the cars, we can see the intersections, and we have the ability to zoom in closer or tighter and follow the police car through the entire scenario to watch all the conflicts and to watch the reaction of the police car and other traffic coming into the picture.
It looks like the advantage point of a helicopter.
It is actually called the helicopter view just for that reason, and it automatically follows the pursuit just like a helicopter would. This is the instructor's display map, which, as you can see, it shows the whole city. It shows our police car, which is in red, and then it shows the purple circles are the conflicts which the police car, as it drives, will encounter and cross those conflicts. So the instructor has the ability to watch the vehicle as it goes through the city and know when the conflicts are approaching. Okay, what the instructor has the ability to do now is to follow the situation and look at all the defensive driving tactics and the pursuit tactics that we try to teach our officers. Here we've had a vehicle that ran in the intersection, ran a red light. So now the officer is doing his duty and going after the individual and is now in pursuit of them. The officer needs to watch for the intersections, for the conflicts that come into place, and try to evaluate that and use that in a balanced test as to whether or not it is worth the pursuit to continue the pursuit or not. In this particular situation, you see the traffic, you see the officer is using the good driving tactics of staying to the left because all citizens are supposed to pull to the right. They're trying to avoid the conflicts as far as the other vehicles in the lane. Now the suspect, he has no rules. He can drive any way he wants to get away. The officer, on the other hand, has a duty to drive with due regard for public safety. Here, as you can see, he's driving much slower through the conflicts when the citizens become involved. You can see pedestrians. The suspect has already gone through because they don't care. We still have an obligation and we still care for the officer's safety and public safety. So they've slowed down. The officer now has slowed down and is backing off the pursuit. Remember, we're only following them for a red light violation at this point. That's all we know. You see the school bus, you see the school zone. The officer is now backed off to the point where the suspect is probably going to get away. But we're trying to teach that that's worth it in this balance test as far as whether or not it's worth the pursuit for what we're chasing them for. The instructor monitors it up to this point. He sees the replay and he can feed this information back to the officer. And as you see in this case, the vehicle is getting away, which we believe is a good decision on the officer's part, that he allowed it to go away because of the conflicts of the motorcycles, the pedestrians, and the school zones.
Anyone lost the vehicle at 4th and M. It's a blue sedan.
We're very proud of our department that they took on this task, that they in our city council, that they accepted the price and the cost of these, because we know that in the long run they are going to reduce accidents. They are going to make it safer for the community and safer for the officers, because there's definitely a learning transference from this room out onto the street, and that's what we're here for, is to increase that safety for everyone.
The apprehension of suspects often involves learning a disciplined interaction between man and machine. The Pursuit Simulator supplies an excellent environment for this interaction, giving officers new confidence and skill in the correct use of police vehicles. When we come back, we will look into the Santa Ana Police Department's Physical Agilities Test to see some of the physical requirements of being an officer and to see how new recruits are tested before their admission into the police academy. Ever wonder what it takes to be a police officer? Today, the Santa Ana Police Department is having a physical agilities test to see if applicants can meet the physical requirements of the job. What is the physical agility test?
The physical agility test is a series of events which are designed to show whether a police applicant possesses the necessary physical skills to become a police officer, and also to ensure that they can make it through the police academy.
And what does it all entail?
Well, for our organization, there are 4 events. There's what we call a long pursuit, then there's a short pursuit, a stare response, and a body drag. And I can explain each of those events in detail if you would like.
Okay.
The long pursuit is what you're looking at here on the field. The applicant starts out by going over a 6-foot wall, and then they run around the perimeter of the football field, during which course they hop over a 18-inch hurdle and then a 4-foot wall. And this is a event that's designed to establish the applicant's cardiovascular strength, because they're pretty much sprinting the entire way. It could very, very easily wear you out if you're not in shape.
Are they timed?
Yes, they are. Every event is timed, and the times are calculated by our city personnel section, and the applicant is rated, and then it's just a matter of picking those who pass or those who fail.
Oh. And why is it so necessary?
The physical agility test is really necessary just to ensure that once a person gets out on the street, that they are physically capable of doing the things required of a police officer. Because we are an emergency service and a public service, that can mean climbing up an 8-story building on the stairs. That can mean dragging people out of a building or performing other things which you really have to be in physical shape to do. If the people who are supposed to save you are not in physical shape and they're collapsing, then we're in trouble.
Yeah, I would say so.
The first test you're going to do is what's called a long pursuit. You'll all be wearing a 8-pound belt, simulates a police belt. You'll start at this cone behind you. When you're ready to go, you let us know. You take off running. You got to get over the 6-foot wall. You must make it over the wall. You get 2 attempts at it. If you fail a first attempt, we'll give you a second attempt. But you must make it over the wall to continue the test. Once you get to the other side of the wall, on that ground, that's when the time starts, okay?
This is not a jogging event. This is a sprint. This is a run. If you're jogging, you will not make it. Okay, you need to be running the whole time. Don't try to pace yourself too much, because you should be in a run the entire time. Once you get to here, your time will stop. We will not be telling you what your times are today, so don't ask. So once you get to the end of the event, you're going to get a rest time and you go to the second event. Now during each event, you're going to be wearing one of these belts. It has about 8 pounds in the weight belt. It's a Sam Browne, just like you'd be wearing as a police officer. Go ahead and you'll be putting the Sam Browne on. Make sure it's snug. If it's loose and it's moving around, it will slow your time down. It'll throw your balance off. So it's very important that you make sure there's 4 different sizes. So don't put an extra large on for any of you, because it'll be too big for you. Get one that's good and snug, and you can put your clothes around it, anything you want to make it as snug as you can.
Go, sprint it! Come on, all the way, all the way! All the way down, all the way down! Sprint to the end, sprint to the end! All the way, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop!
The short pursuit is a series of events where the applicant's moral agility is being tested, and this consists of running over short, like a 3-foot hurdle, and doing some stops and starts, sudden stops and starts, and zigzagging obstacles. And what this represents to us is if they ever get involved in an incident where they're chasing somebody, very frequently you're going through backyards and over hill and over dale, and that would help us evaluate their agility in that response if they ever have to get over a small obstacle or a fence or a sprint. The body drag is a 160-pound dummy, which they have to drag 25 feet. And this is probably the more practical of all the things here. It's if you have a fellow officer who's down for some reason, if you have to get out there and drag an officer to cover, you have to be able to at least drag them a certain amount of distance in order to provide cover for them. And also a citizen, which you might have to evacuate somebody from maybe a building fire or some other such a medical emergency. Again, you need the strength to be able to do that. So that's what we're evaluating there. Then we have a stare response, which again, it's more evaluating a stamina and being able to do a very quick cardiovascular event without collapsing or being physically strained by it. So those are some of the practical reasons behind what we do out here on the test.
Now you have to be in pretty good shape to do this. Are the standards the same for the male and female applicants?
Yes, they are. The females and the males take exactly the same test, and they are scored exactly the same way. There's no preference given, there's no extra points given or taken away based on gender.
And what percentage of the people who apply pass?
For the physical agility test, probably 60 to 70% will pass the physical agility test, and that's probably a high park number to give to that event.
Run to me! Come on! Gotta run! Keep going!
You got 10 yards! Let's go!
All the way! Don't stop!
Now, for some applicants that come from other departments, the number that pass probably is much higher than fresh recruits or fresh people who have never had anything to do with the department.
Yes, it is. The lateral officers these are people who are already working for a police department. They've already been through a police academy, so they know what's involved in this event, and by keeping in relatively good shape, they should not have a problem with the physical agility test, as opposed to the recruits. Many people come in here not knowing really what they're getting into, quite frankly, and many of them are just not in shape physically to do the events that are required here.
Well, now, would a person who wants to try out, could they find out ahead of time what would be required so they can hit the gym and lift weights and run? And
yes, they could. There's several ways they could do that. When we send out a letter to these people inviting them to this event, we send a paper with that telling them exactly what the events consist of, how long they are, and what's involved in each event. If anybody calls a police department, they would be referred to my office, and we'd be glad to tell them exactly what is involved in case they have any doubts or any questions about the physical agility test. And these events, as we go through them, they're open to the public, so if they're really curious, they can come down here and they can watch one of these events.
what is the history of the test?
Back in the mid-1970s, the governing body for the police in the state, which is called POST, this is the Peace Officers Standards and Training Organization, which is a statewide organization, in an attempt to professionalize the police departments in the state, they decided that it would be a good idea to have a standard physical fitness test or requirement for all officers to have. And since that time, they've developed, they obviously refer to some military tests that they give their recruits in the military, and they implemented various physical agility tests. And as a result, over the years, this is what has come down as far as our organization is concerned. The events that we give here are the ones that are the most important to us to better evaluate our applicants. So this has been going on for 30 years now that we've been doing this test, and again, it's been successful in helping us evaluate the applicants better.
Now, how many years has Santa Ana been giving this test?
I would say probably 25 years that Santa Ana has been given this test, yes.
And has there been any changes over the years?
There has. If nothing else, there's been the locations have varied for us. We've used different colleges, etc. And the distances have been sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, and over the years we've worked with that, and at this point the distances and the events that we have now, our history has shown us that these are the most practical ones for helping us evaluate the candidates.
Would you say that the test has been getting tougher as the years go by, or a little bit easier?
I don't know that it's either of those, other than that it's been maybe changing. It's been evolutionizing, for lack of a better term. It's been changing to help us better evaluate. So I wouldn't say it's an easy test by any means, but on the other hand, if you're in good physical condition, you should be able to pass this test.
If one fails the test, can they try again?
Yes, for our city, once if they fail this test, they can come back in the following agility test. As long as they're qualified, they can test until they pass or they decide they don't want to do it anymore. But there's no code or law that says they can only test 10 times, and that's it. Until they pass it or until they give up.
How will the applicants know they passed the test?
After they're done here for the day, we tell them that within a week they receive a letter from the city personnel office advising them whether they pass or fail. So when they leave here, they don't know if they passed or failed. I think most of them probably have a good idea, depending on how they've done in the events, because we tell them what a good time would be. We don't tell them their time, but we tell them what a good time would be. So they should have an idea if they've done good or not. And then a week later, they're advised in the mail.
So they would know, like, if they could sprint a certain distance at a certain time, that would probably be acceptable or not, so they can train for it.
That is right. And then as they come here for the test, before they do each event, we explain the event again to them to make sure they understand it. And we tell them, okay, for this event, X would be a good time for you to complete this. This is a very important part of our selection process. People, they sometimes question the validity of the physical fitness test, and why don't we make it easier, or why do we give one at all? But I would think most people, when you have an emergency in your house or wherever you may be, and you call the police, you want somebody arriving on that scene that is going to do a good job, that is going to be in shape to do the job, that you can look at them and have confidence that they're going to do a good job. And overall, that is the purpose of the physical fitness testing and for the academy requirements behind that.
The Santa Ana Police Department is dedicated to creating and maintaining the best force they can. They do this by screening new recruits and by the use of the simulator along with other types of training. I'm finally Bentley for Talk About Town. See you next time.